Hello guys, welcome to my channel Lucid Fanfic, and if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. Central Plaza. Tamura Shigaraki's day wasn't going as he had hoped. The plan was simple. Step 1, stolen timetables to time the attack. Step 2, have Kurojiri scatter the students, and have the low to mid-level grunts kill them. Step 3, have Nomu kill All Might. However, the plan had gone off the rails at Step 2. Kurojiri hadn't returned, which implied he was defeated. His Plaza grunts were being crushed by Eraserhead and Vlad King, and All Might was a no-show. F it, why isn't anything going as planned? The crusty villain thought to himself as he violently scratched the back of his neck. At least I'll get some EXP via Nomu killing these higher-leveled heroes. He continued as he witnessed both teacher heroes being wrecked by his master's gift to kill the symbol of peace. Meanwhile, with Eraserhead, F it, I know I erased this thing's quirk, but it's still this strong. The hero thought to himself whilst his head was in the grasp of a monster the villain's leader called a Nomu, and monster was an apt description of this thing. It was over 8 feet tall and 100% muscle with dead eyes. Its brain was exposed and had a large beak laden with razor-sharp teeth. Worst of all, even when Aizawa erased its quirk, it still had enough strength to ragdoll both him and Vlad simultaneously. The latter was now unconscious about 15 feet away, bleeding heavily. Aizawa's situation wasn't any better. His right arm was shattered to splinters, and his left eye was bleeding, and he was sure he had a skull fracture. So this is how I die, killed by a monster controlled by a villain with a hand fetish, buying time for that blonde buffoon to arrive and save the day. What a shitty death. I just hope all the students are okay. Aizawa thought to himself with hope, just as the villain leader ordered the Nomu to crush his skull. Hisashi, Namuri, Oboro, I'm sorry, were his last thoughts as he prepared himself for death. Until suddenly the monster's grip loosened with a thunderous and screeching roar. As he fell to the ground, the monster's now severed hand fell in front of him, leaking a viscous black ooze. Using what little strength he had, he turned to see Hatsum wielding her weird energy axe, having gone full Skywalker on the monster. He then saw 2 fury arms grasp the bewildered Nomu and throw it at the villain leader. The one who threw it was revealed to be one of Vlad's students, Shishida. Why are you here? Aizawa asked, confused at the student's arrival. Because it's a hero's job to help people. Ribbit, replied Tsu, who hopped over with Izuku to help their teacher, whilst Kodai and Aways went to help out Vlad. I told you guys to. He began before Izuku cut him off. With all due respect, sir, none of us could call ourselves heroes if we didn't help. You can scold us and threaten us with expulsion when this whole nightmare is over. Izuku stated sternly, causing his teacher to slightly grin beneath his capture weapon as he took silent pride on his students. This moment of calm was shattered as the villain leader yelled, "Nomu, kill these brats." Shigaraki yelled with anger, causing the Nomu to attack the first thing it saw after recovering from being thrown, that being Izuku. In the blink of an eye, the Nomu covered the nearly 20-meter distance between itself and the hero student, throwing a punch with its now regrown fist. In response, Izuku activated his force field, and the resulting collision sent out an explosive shockwave that threw everyone in the near vicinity off their feet. Tsu caught Aizawa and landed with him, whilst Aways held himself, Kodai, and Vlad down with his welding. Izuku was shocked at the monster's strength. That one punch tore through 45% of his barrier's integrity. In response, he unleashed his gyrokinetic module at full force to gain distance, the force of which would knock a skyscraper off its foundations, but did little more than push the monster 10 feet. What is up with this thing? Super strength, super speed, impact resistance. It's like it has multiple quirks. Izuku speculated inside his head. The monster attempted to attack again, only to be attacked by Mei, getting both its arms sliced off by her axe as she regrouped with Izuku. The duo watched in astonishment as the creature regrew its limbs on seconds. Accelerated regeneration as well. This thing has to have multiple quirks. It's the only explanation for power like this. Izuku exclaimed. That's right. Nomu here is a bioengineered creature designed for the sole purpose of killing All Might. Its quirks are. Shigaraki began, but was cut off by a new arrival. Superhuman strength, superhuman speed, impact absorption, and ultra-fast regeneration. Melissa stated as she landed next to her friends. That's what you were going to say, right? she said, looking at the villain leader with a smug smile. How did you know that? Only myself, Hirojiri, and Sensei. So how could you know its exact quirks? Shigaraki furiously whined. The same way I know that its base was a man named Okoro Satoru, and that it's currently brain dead. My biometric scanners. Melissa replied, causing the villain to do a double take at the knowledge of this girl's advanced technology. It doesn't matter. Knowing Noma's abilities won't help you. Noma, kill those three. Shigaraki yelled, causing the creature to charge the trio. In response, Izuku put all power to his Gilgamite limbs in order to catch the attack monster. In another tremendous clash of night, Izuku used his suit's limbs to intercept and catch the monster out's Noma's attack. What? How? How are you strong enough to match my Nomu? Also, I thought you had telekinesis, not super strength. Perhaps you also have multiple quirks. Shigaraki screamed in rage and confusion. Melissa, May, I've got this freak. Melly, you deal with his the leader. May you prepare the Absolute Zero rifle. The rest of you get the teachers back to the entrance. Izuku stated to his friends and classmates. You guys heard the overpowered science man. Let's go. Awaze yelled to his classmates. Thusly Tsu and Kirishima grabbed Aizawa, while Shishida, Kodai, and Awaze himself grabbed Vlad. They all began running towards the USJ entrance. As the students were evacuating their teachers, Melissa flew towards Shigaraki, whilst Izuku started fighting the Nomu. At the same time, May was preparing the deadliest weapon the trio created. Melissa versus Shigaraki. Shigaraki was not prepared for the speed in which Melissa attacked him. She used her repulsors to charge him and gut punch him, sending him flying several feet. Huh. Thought you'd be tougher since you're the leader of this little attack, but you've fallen woefully below my expectations, Han JB. Melissa stated with a slightly bored tone, while simultaneously insulting the villain's choice in attire. You beach Itamura, Shigaraki will reduce you to dust. Now stay still. Shigaraki screamed as he attacked at a speed his physique shouldn't allow, but every time he tried to grab Melissa, she easily dodged him thanks to Mayday predicting the villain's highly telegraphed movements in mere picoseconds. God quirks are so limited. You need to touch me in order to reduce me to dust, as you said. Melissa stated in a mocking tone as she used her biometric scanner to get a read on the villain's genetic code. His DNA wasn't in the system, implying it was removed, and his quirk had the ability to induce decay in anything physical, reducing it to dust, but it required all 5 fingers to touch the target. Hey, quick question. Does your quirk work on yourself? Because if so, then choking the chicken must be a pain unless you already turned it to dust? Melissa asked again in a mocking tone, causing the villain to get angrier and his movements become more erratic. I'm going to kill you, you hero beach. The villain huffed in the exhaustion and rage due to his inability to even touch the young hero Tahi. Okay, I'm bored now, Melissa said as she stopped moving. Shigaraki took his chance to go for her face, only to suddenly stop as Melissa kneed him in the midsection, causing the villain to fall in agony. Huh, guess you do still have your balls intact, sorta, Melissa stated. Nomu is going to kill you all, just you wait, Shigaraki said with pain grunts between each line. I wouldn't be so sure, take a look, Melissa replied with a cocky grin. Shigaraki then looked over at his master's creation in shock. Izuku versus Nomu. Huh, whoever made you sure knew what they were doing, you're strong, Izuku stated as he traded supersonic blows with Nomu. All might equals Izuku. And if Melissa's biometric scanners are right, which they more than likely are, you possess shock absorption, which isn't shock nullification, which means you have a hard limit to how much you can take. But I'm not trying to kill you, just keep you distracted whilst May builds your demise. So let's just get you nice and worn out, Izuku stated as he grabbed the beast and threw it into the sky and flew after it. Whilst in midair the Nomu flailed wildly, Izuku flew behind it and slammed it into the ground with significant force. Goku equals Izuku, Zamasu equals Nomu. Izuku landed by the crater as the Nomu recovered and tried to attack, only for Izuku to dodge every strike. Goku equals Izuku, Nomu equals Kefla. Even after all the damage you've taken, you still have this much will to fight. Well then, since you're still technically a man, let's try this, Izuku said as he ducked, grabbed the bear's leg, and yanked it into the air and struck its nether region. The Nomu flew several feet, and upon landing could barely stand up. Izuku struck it with about 3 megatons of force, All Might's strongest smash in his prime, was calculated at about 24 gigatons of TNT, so the fact that it could even stand was impressive. Wow, you really don't know when to give up, so you. Izuku said with slight surprise at the monster's endurance and pain resistance. But you're clearly out of steam. I mean, you can barely stand. He continued as he observed the creature's shaking legs and clenched thighs. Eyes of the rifle's finished. Mei yelled as she presented the weapon. Recolor it in Mei's colors and replace the green with a light HEW of blue. The Absolute Zero rifle was quite possibly the most dangerous weapon the trio created next to the antimatter gun. The rifle fired a concentrated photon beam in a process called laser cooling. Go look it up. It's both complicated and fascinating, which brings the target's atomic temperature to absolute zero, which results in the target being crushed at the atomic level, reducing it to cold dust. Fire away, Mei, Izuku said as the Pinkette fired the rifle at the monster, and in a near instant the beast was reduced to a pile of dust in the shape of Nomu. Izuku merely poked it, and the beast crumbled into a pile of cold dust. Well, all's well that ends well, Izuku said joyously as he approached the now stunned silent Shigaraki. You, sir, are under arrest for attempted murder, B and E, illegal human experimentation, and assault. What is your retort? Izuku stated, asking the villain to reply to his accusations. Sensei, I need your help now. The villain screamed as a black sludge exploded out his mouth and enveloped him, seemingly teleporting him. What the hell? Melissa yelled as she witnessed the villain's escape. Midoriya bro, it's Kirishima. The portal fog villain just vomited up some black sludge and vanished. Also, the teachers just arrived. Kirishima said over the codec with nervousness in his voice at the villain's escape, but joy at the teacher's arrival. Looks like Kirojiri got away. Seems as though these guys had a mysterious benefactor who didn't want those two being captured. Izuku told Melissa, and Mei as All Might arrives with Nizu on his shoulder and Midnight alongside him. Young Midoriya, what happened here? We got some information from young Kirishima about a monster. Where is it? Simply point, and I shall smash it. The number one hero stated bombastically. It's a long story, All Might, was Izuku's only reply as he began said story. A mysterious location. Both Shigaraki and Kirojiri landed on the floor of a bar with a thump. What happened, Tamura? Why did you feel the need to call for my aid? A monitor asked with a foreboding tone. There were cheaters with higher-level gear, Sensei. They had it ripped straight from a sci-fi movie. They killed Nomu easily and bested Kirojiri with ease. They had suits. Was all the villain said before passing out from exhaustion. This could be troubling, was the monitor's reply. After Izuku finished explaining the situation to All Might, he, along with Melissa and Mei, left the USJ and went to check in their classmates. They were also informed by Nizu, who had arrived with the other teachers, that they'd have to undergo an interrogation/interview with the police when they arrived. They accepted this and continued on towards their fellow classmates in order to check up on them. Thankfully, most of the students were mostly uninjured, with the majority simply suffering cuts and bruises. However, that didn't mean everyone was okay, as when the trio got to the ambulances that had been set and asked around, they got the worrying results from their other classmates. Some injuries were light, such as Mina's burns and Aoyama's quirk exhaustion. However, many had suffered greater injuries. Both Bakugo and Hagakure had suffered internal organ damage from their fights. Shoji was covered in claw marks. Shirhai had suffered an ankle slash just above his tendon. Siro's left arm is broken in several places and had a concussion. Shinso has also suffered a concussion. Tetsu has suffered a claw swipe to his eyes that could potentially lead to blindness. Kaibara had suffered frostbite, but not nearly as badly. Todoroki, whose body temperature was in the single digits, and his right side was almost entirely iced over to the point where he was immediately rushed away for intensive care. Hope you recover soon, Todoroki, Izuku thought to himself as his name was called a detective to get his story for the situation. During his interview with a detective named Tsukachi, he mentioned how the Nomu had multiple quirks which caused the man to flinch slightly, which didn't escape Izuku's notice, but the man carried on anyway. He knows something about the Nomu, doesn't he? Izuku thought to himself, intending to bring it up with Melissa and Mei later on. After the interviews, all the students were sent back to dorms. Many were shaken and exhausted from the day's events. Melissa was, however, absent. Apparently, Recovery Girl called for her, asking for extremists to heal Todoroki's frostbite, so she had to rush off. When she got back, she found both Izuku and Mei in the main room kicking everyone's butts in video games. She approached them and asked if they could join her in their room later, as she had something to tell, and show them, to which they agreed to do so right after they curb-stomped Kaminari and Kirishima for the 5th time. The trio's room. "So Melissa, what is it you wanted to show and tell us?" Izuku asked as he closed the door, as he and Mei sat down in their favorite beanbags. "Firstly, I think I may have come up with a solution to our armory problem," she started, referring to how they had to pick and choose their weapons or use lesser versions generated by their suits. "Oh, how's that?" Mei asked with intrigue. Melissa then simply actives the trio's holodable and uploaded some biometric data she got from one of the villains from the USJ. "Remember that Kurogiri guy with the warp quirk?" she asked, getting a nod from Mei and a grin from Izuku. "You want me to reverse engineer the quirk to create portal technology, as well as use the Nomu's data to create stronger regeneration extremists, don't you?" he stated confidently, getting a smile from Melissa. "Yes, if you can somehow create portal tech, then not only would it allow us unlimited access to our arsenal, but we could completely undermine every type of engine-based transportation. Not only that, but if we could unlock the beast's regeneration, we could heal any wound." Melissa replied with bounce in her voice. "That's certainly a lofty goal, but reverse engineering the warp portals is going to take some time. Also, the Nomu's genes, from what I can see on the table, are all messed up." Izuku replied nervously as he tried to break down how on earth he's going to create space-rending technology and help Melissa with the tangled spaghetti that comprised the monster's genome. "Oh well, I've made the impossible possible before. This is no different, just need to arm my back into it." Izuku thought to himself. "So what was the other thing you wanted to talk about?" Mei asked curiously. "Oh, right, that. Uncle might wanted to talk to us about something to do with the Nomu before our lessons start back up again," she replied, getting confused looks from the other two. "Wonder what All Might would have to tell us." Izuku thought to himself. "No idea, but he looked like he was worried about something." Melissa replied. That didn't sit well with any of the trio, but for now they couldn't really do anything, so they decided to distract themselves with various projects. Mei dove into weapon refinement. Izuku started deciding Kurogiri's genetic data, which turned out to be nearly as scrambled as the Nomu's, which implied they were both genetically engineered entities. Lastly, Melissa started doing the same, but for the Nomu itself. The next day, our trio made their way to All Might's office, and the mood was gloomy. The sky was shadowed over by dark clouds, and the forecast predicted rain later on. But for now, our heroes continued on towards their teacher's office. When they arrived, they found All Might in his skinny form along with the detective from the other day, the dean, and a short old man in a yellow costume. All of them held somber and wordy-filled looks on their faces. "Good morning, young Midoriya, young Hatsum, and young Shield. Thank you for coming. I'm sure you three are very busy with your projects." All Might started. "It's no problem," Almi Izuku stated before he was cut off. "In this form, I'm Tashinori Yagi. Please refer to me as such." Yagi asked firmly yet politely. "Okay, Yagi, as I was saying, you asked us to attend this little meeting, and so we came beside we could all use a break from our projects. Those DNA strands are driving me insane." Izuku continued as he cupped his face with his hands in exhaustion. "Same here, Uncle Might," Melissa replied, whilst Mei simply nodded. "The reason you three are here is because you three fought and bested the Nomu alone and almost captured the villain's leader," Niza stated. "And knowing you three, you more than likely 2 biometric data scans if it didn't you." The dean continued with a grin on his face. "Nothing gets past you, sir. Yes, we took DNA scans of the Nomu, Kurogiri, and their leader Tamura Shigaraki," Melissa stated, getting shocked looks from all her seniors. "You're sure his name was Shigaraki?" the man in yellow asked. "Yeah, he told me himself when he was threatening me," Melissa said, but could finish as she didn't know the man's name. "Sorahiko Tornio, the old hero Gran Torino, the guy who helped train this insufferable oaf," he replied, gesturing to Yagi, who was swearing buckets. "Wait, you trained Uncle Might?" Melissa replied in shock. "Yes, he did, but back on topic. What did you scans tell you about the 3 villains?" Detective Tsukauchi asked. "Well, for one thing, the Nomu was completely brain dead, yet could still function if given orders, and both it and Kurogiri's genomes had been tampered with. The Nomu had 4 separate quirks as well as additional muscle layered on, whilst Kurogiri had about 4 quirks melded into one, like squashing dough together to create his portals. Shigaraki had a decay quirk, and his DNA wasn't in any database. Kuroji's was too muddled to get a hit. Only the Nomu had a hit, and it was probably the thing's base body before it was genetically altered. Melissa explained in detail, getting more and more worried as she spoke, as all her seniors' faces got darker and darker with each word. How can he be back? It's not possible. Yagi muttered under his breath with a worried look on his face. We should have confirmed his death with a body. Torino whispered nervously. This is a disaster. Sukachi mumbled quietly. Nizu simply dipped his tea with shaky hands. Am I the only one who noticed the room's sudden tonal shift? May asked. Are you all right? Yagi, Nizu, Detective Torino? Izuku asked, getting all four to suddenly return to reality. We should tell them. Their technology will be of great assistance if he is alive. Sukachi stated, getting nods from his three cohorts. Sorry, who's this he you all keep mumbling about? Izuku asked curiously. All for one. Yagi stated as lighting crackled outside. He then began to tell our intrepid trio the tale of two brothers at the dawn of Quirks. How the younger was quirkless, but the older had a quirk that let him steal and gift quirks, how the older brother became a king of crime, the lord of villainy. The younger brother opposed his brother, but had no power to do so. How in pity for his brother the older gave him a stockpile quirk, and how it merged with younger brother's useless transfer quirk and became one for all, a quirk that had one goal: destroy AFO. It took countless sacrifices and 8 generations of heroes over nearly 2 centuries to do so, but All Might finally did it. He killed AFO with his bare hands. The villain's viscous gray matter seeping through his fingers as he flattened his skull, at the cost of his intestinal tract and half his left lung. As the story ended out, trio felt as if they had physically aged due to how dramatic the story was. A 200-year-old quirk thief who was supposed to be dead had created a monster to kill the number 1 hero, and they killed it. He's going to be rather upset at them. Sir, not that we don't appreciate this, but why tell us this? May asked, still processing the information. Because your technology managed to easily defeat a monster designed to kill All Might. We need that technology to defeat AFO. With it we can put an end to that monster once and for all. Tuskachi stated with conviction. I heard you used some kind of ice gun on the monster. Torino stated, getting a heavy sigh out of May. Cold gun, not an ice gun, there is a difference. She stated with an annoyed tone. Sorry, cold gun. Anyway, you got any other crazy weapons? The old man asks curiously. We have an arsenal straight out of science fiction. Think of something, and we've probably built it, or have plans to build it. Izuku stated confidently, getting a smile from Torino. So what do you say, you three? Are you willing to aid in my crusade against AFO? Remember, it takes courage not only to accept, but to decline as well. I will be okay with any answer. Yagi stated, hoping they'd agree to help. A chance to fight a villain on All Might's level while showing off that technology can complete with that level of quirk. Sign me up. Izuku stated with a confident smile. I'll get to test my deadlier babies. I may never get another chance to do so. I'm in. May interjected with a million-yen smile. Melissa? Yagi said. This monster has destroyed countless lives, stole thousands of quirks, ruined your life. How can I say no? She stated with a vicious grin. Splendid, absolutely splendid. This calls for a celebration. Nizu cried with a smile on his animal face. Wait, Uncle Might, I think you forgot something. Melissa interrupts with a smile, causing Yagi to remember. What's she talking about, brat? Torino asked, confused. His extremis healing. I said I give it to him after the USJ, and it seems in all the hubbub that we forgot, but now I can give it to you, Uncle Might. Melissa stated with a kind smile. Wait, heal him. Sukachi cried, shocked at the revelation. Yes, you're right, Melissa. If we're going to fight AFO, I need to be at my best. Yagi declared with confidence. Humph, that monster's not going to know what hit him. Torino uttered under his breath as Yagi got up to get to medical bay to get the extremis. Later in Nizu's office. The brat took the girl's extremis stuff and is now in some weird scab cocoon. I'm told will heal him. Torino said whilst Nizu sipped tea. He should be healed by the time of the sports festival. Let's hope he's up to challenges ahead. Let's hope they all are, for all our sakes. Nizu replied with a weary smile. It had been 5 days since the USJ incident occurred. It was Sunday now, and the mood had significantly improved. After fighting alongside one another in what could only be described as death matches with villains, the two classes of 1A and 1B had begun deepening their relationship with one another. However, many still had lingering fear from the attack. but the university ordered everyone to take sessions with Hound Dog. This helped, and any other lingering effects faded with continuous social interaction. After the attack, the university canceled all classes for the foreseeable future, which had allocated for a period of peace, which in turn allowed the two classes to intermingle. By the fourth day, all the social cliques had been established, with everyone having at least a couple of friends and acquaintances. The two exceptions were, of course, Bakugo, whose toxic and egotistical personality isolated and alienated himself from the rest of the students, and Monoma, who attempted to play up his role in the USJ, and as well as downplay and degrade Melissa, which only causes his classmates to dislike him. The only student who attempted to socialize with them was Kirishima, who, bless his heroic heart, tried his best, but only got threats and degrading words from Bakugo and a condescending speech about pity from Monoma. Ignoring the two blonde assholes, however, everyone was getting along. Our trio had met more intellectuals other than Momo, such as Shishida, who despite his animalistic appearance was rather Shakespearean in his mannerisms and intelligence, and they found a fellow pre-quirk nerd in Kodai who had an obsession with tokusatsu culture and giant robots. When they told her about their suits, her eyes boggled with excitement, and she begged them to make her a new hero costume and a giant robot, which Melissa immediately turned down, but May gave her a wink, which led to most of both classes asking for suits and tech from the trio as well. To which the trio agreed. The trio filled an entire notebook with requests and ideas, but informed everyone that it would take a while. First day back. Then finally Monday rolled around, and classes started back up again. As the class took their seats for morning roll call, the mood was notably mixed, with many still on edge because of the USJ. "So who do you guys think will take our roll call today?" asked Kaminari broadly. "Probably Midnight or Present Mike, since Aizawa-sensei was injured at the USJ." Momo replied cordially. As the class continued debating who would cover for Aizawa, the door opened, causing everyone's heads to swivel in its direction, only to reveal Aizawa. Perfectly healthy, one might add. The majority of the class was confused, and quite until a certain frog girl broke the tension. "Aizawa-sensei, you're okay. I thought you'd look like a mummy all wrapped in bandages with how injured you were." "Ribbit," she stated with all the tact of Sledgehammer. "I would be in bandages had it not been for a certain procedure that I can't mention due to an NDA, but anyway, that's not important right now," he replied, getting confused looks from the majority of the class. What NDA is he talking about? Was the main thing the majority of the class were thinking. Flashback. Our trio find themselves in Recovery Girl's medical ward, looking over both Eraserhead and Vlad King, both looking like Egyptian mummies with all their bandages. "Sorry to ask for your help again, dearies, but it's going to take weeks for me to heal them using my quirk. Think you could help out a senior citizen by giving them some of that extremist stuff?" Recovery Girl asked kindly, referring to Melissa's previous assistance with Todoroki and hoping to get a positive answer now. "Yes, on one condition," Melissa replied sternly. "I'm assuming it's the same condition you got young Todoroki to sign." Recovery Girl replied, recalling how Melissa got Todoroki to sign an NDA before healing him. "Yes, we'd like them to sign, or at least agree to sign, an NDA about extremists, since we don't want it to become public knowledge yet. But there is something else we want," Izuku interjected, getting a curious look from the university's resident nurse. "And what might that be, young man?" "The right to their firstborns, 'cause I doubt Shuta's gonna have one," she replied with a little joke to lighten the mood. "No, not their firstborn, but we do want Aizawa-sensei's DNA," Izuku stated, causing Recovery Girl to give him a confused look until she remembered something. "You want to reverse engineer Eraserhead's quirk, don't you?" she stated bluntly, getting a nod from their verdant boy. "Well, you should probably at least wait until he wake up before poking and prodding at his genome," Recovery Girl replied, who was accepted by the trio, and thus they waited. Back to the present. "Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed your relaxing time off, because your fight isn't over yet," Aizawa stated, causing many of the class to pale in fear of another potential attack. "Because the sports festival is in 1 week," he continued, causing a wave of relief to wash over the class, all except one. "Sir, are you sure that telling us that our fight isn't over is positive for our mental health? Also, I would think that UA would at the very least postpone the festival as a result of the attack," Ida stated as a stood up and chopped the air frantically in frustration. "Calm down and be quiet, Ida. First off, there's no need to worry about the festival, since I've heard there's going to be 3 times the security this year. Secondly, I find it very appropriate to tell you your fight isn't over since the sports festival is a perfect opportunity to showcase your quirks and skills, as well as get noticed by pros for your internships. Aizawa explained, causing Ida to apologize and sit back down. Following this, there were numerous discussions amongst the class about the festival, culminating in Achiko radiating an aura of competitiveness and making an announcement. "I'm going to do my best," Achiko yelled with a dark aura surrounding her. After the morning session was completed, as the class was leaving the room, they found themselves boxed in by other students, many of whom were from general studies. However, it didn't matter who they were, since they were now in the path of one explosive blonde. "Get out of the way, you competition scouting extras. You're never going to be as good as me," Bakugo exclaimed fiercely with a face of cruelty. "Bakugo, do not call our fellow classmates extras. It's highly rude." Ida responded in an attempt to scald the blonde, only to be called an extra himself. It was at this point that Oneby showed up to issue a friendly challenge to their rivals, with Tetsu at the head of group. He issued a personal challenge to Kirishima over manliness, to wit the redhead eagerly accepted. However, this good-natured challenge was unfortunately interrupted and ruined by another blonde. Monoma, who ever since the USJ had been spreading unfounded rumors about 1A, had strolled up to the class with challenge of his own. He proposed that should a student from either class claim first place in the tournament section of the festival, then the opposing class should reject all the offers they received from pro heroes. Immediately, Momo and Ida, along with Kendo, attempted to get him to rescind the challenge, but not only did it fall upon Monoma's deaf ears, it fell upon Bakugo's fragile ego ears, causing the raging blonde to accept the challenge and threaten everyone there, which did no favors for his own class. Whilst all this was happening, most of the class, along with the other classes, slowly trickled away to get to their lessons, all except our trio, who were currently on their way to their dorms and personal workshop to finish up some projects for the festival. 1A dorms. "So, how goes untangling Kurogiri's genome, Melissa?" Izuku asked his friend curiously. "About as well as untangling Christmas light wires, except every wire is a Mobius strip. It's so frustrating," she exclaimed with a tone of annoyance. "Well, if anyone can do it, it's you, Melly. So just believe in yourself." "I certainly do, and May certainly does," Izuku replied with a kind smile that re-energized her significantly. Whilst deciphering his quirk genes was rather simple, the dean and detectives had requested that Melissa discovered Kurogiri's true identity, since his face wasn't on any file. But since he's made of other people, and his genes look like they had been put through a blender, whilst the large Nomus were just smushed together, it could useful to know who Kurogiri was and who comprised him. "How are your own projects coming along anyway, Zuzu?" May asked, joining the conversation. "Pretty good. The Nomu's genes were easy enough to replicate and add to our equipment. Its superhuman strength has significantly increased the Gilgamite Gauntlet's physical output, and its shock absorption has increased the energy dispersal efficiency of my force field's kinetic energy dispersal tenfold, and I can expand the barrier to a more significant degree without sacrificing as much durability," Izuku replied jovially. "What about replicating the Cloudman's portals? How's that going? Can we use it to transfer out babies?" May asked with a look of anticipation on her face. "We're going to have to wait a bit longer to see if it's viable for mass transportation, but I have been able to get small spatial holes to occur," he replied as he presented a set of 2 small devices and pushed a button. A small hole in space opened above each device. Izuku then tossed a 1 yen coin through it. However, as soon as it did, the machines burned out. Keeping a portal open for any significant amount of time drains energy at an insane rate. We could probably use our reactors to open a personal portal for at most 5 to 7 seconds before burning out. I think Kurogiri must have had some method of saving energy, or he has a powerful dynamo quirk to generate the required energy that's eluded us," Izuku explained as his 2 friends looked in wonderment and curiosity. "Oh, by the way, May, how's the anti-quirk device coming along?" Izuku asks curiously. "It's all done. Discerning what wavelength of the electromagnetic spectrum was the hard part, but after determining what level of alpha ray is required to interrupt quirk activation, replicating Aizawa-sensei's quirk was easy," May replied with absolute confidence in her ability, physically shown as a proud grin strewn across her face. "Oh, also, May, how much progress have you made on the molecular rearranger? I sent you all the data I had on Momo's DNA," he asked his pink-haired friend, causing her confidence to waver. I've programmed a new AI to take over the process of manipulating the atomic structure of atoms, but I just can't think of any way of making it work. The nanobots don't interact safely with atoms. I think we need to use some form of electromagnetic manipulation. Also, I think we need to skin Momo when she makes something to get a better understanding of her abilities. May replied in an annoyed tone of voice, slightly defeated and in a slouching position. Don't worry, May. If anyone can do it, it's you. Melissa stated with confidence, whilst Izuku gave May a beaming smile, causing the girl to regain her regular pep and bounce. Our intrepid trio them spent the next week on their projects, hanging out with friends, and war gaming strategies for the sports festival. Until finally the day arrived. Day of the sports festival. I'm going to beat all three of you. So, this was the end of part 4 of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.